Mae wythnos yma wedi bod yn drist iawn, yn dilyn morwolaeth ofnadwy fy ffrind David. I'm shocked and so deeply saddened by the murder last week of my colleague Sir David Amos. Sir David died while doing a job that he loved, and to which, after nearly 4 decades of service, his commitment had never waned, serving the people of Southend West in Essex. The tributes to Sir David that we heard in Parliament on Monday, along with the visible consternation and outpouring of grief in Southend, portray the warmth and respect with which he was regarded by those with whom he served and by those he represented. David's death is a huge loss to Parliament, to politics, to his constituents, and to his country. But most of all, his death is a loss to his family. Sir David leaves behind his beloved wife and 5 children. My thoughts and prayers are with them all. They are also with his office team. They will be grieving for not just a boss, but also a dear, dear friend. Echoing just some of the tributes that were given in Parliament on Monday, it's a fitting legacy, and I'm delighted that Southend is now a city, something for which Sir David has campaigned for vehemently for many years. It's now incumbent on us all now, more than ever, no matter our political differences, to build on his legacy. Sir David had come to symbolise qualities that have become increasingly rare in our politics: kindness, respect, and compassion. These are attributes that we must restore to our political discourse and political debates. In doing so, we will honour his memory, and we can restore faith in our politics to millions of people throughout our country. I'd like to use this opportunity to quote the poignant words of Jo Cox, the Labour Member of Parliament for Batley and Spen, who was murdered 5 years ago while meeting with her constituents. She said, "We are far more united and have far more in common than that which divides us." If we abide to the sentiments of these words, and by the example of Sir David Amos, I know that the cloud of hatred and division that's poisoned our politics for too long can be lifted. It is becoming increasingly clear that this cowardly attack against an unarmed individual trying to help his constituents was not just an attack on an individual, it was a terrorist attack upon our very democracy and against our freedoms. As Gordon Brown so rightly said after it became clear that this was a terrorist attack, this was an attack on our democracy, so the answer cannot be less democracy. For our precious democracy to flourish, it's vital that elected representatives are accessible by the people that they serve. And as your Member of Parliament, the absolute highlight of my job is returning home to our beautiful island each week and meeting with people, businesses and community groups from right across Anglesey. Meeting and speaking with so many people is so enjoyable, but for me, it is also invaluable, as it helps me to learn so much about the issues and challenge that you face, and about the ideas that you have to make our island an even better place to live and work. It's only right that security is reviewed, and I must also thank and think about my team, whose welfare and safety is my priority. But I will not let this attack stop me from being accessible to you, the people of Arnismorn, who I'm honoured day in and day out to represent. I will still be meeting at every opportunity with as many of you as possible, and I will still be holding in-person MP surgeries so that I can help those most in need. And of course, I'll be using every opportunity that I can to practice my Welsh. Earlier this week, the government set out its net zero strategy and plan to create 440,000 jobs on the journey to decarbonising our economy. And on Tuesday, speaking in the Chamber during the Minister's statement on the net zero strategy, I asked Greg Hands, the Minister of State at the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, if he could reassure my Arnismorn constituents that they will benefit from the 440,000 net zero jobs being created by 2030 and the £90 billion worth of private investment. And I said, will he accept my invitation to visit Wilvernewydd and see at first hand why the Prime Minister is such a fervent supporter? I warmly welcomed his response, in which he said, "I thank my honourable friend, who's a tireless advocate for Arnismorn, particularly on the economy and jobs. Of course, Ynys Môn, the whole of Wales and North Wales will benefit from the new green jobs that this net zero strategy will help to foster. The new money announced today for the Future Nuclear Enabling Fund is for optionality for the future, so that we can make future decisions based on good information on nuclear. And obviously, that includes potential sites such as Wilver. The Future Nuclear Enabling Fund is hugely important to us here on Anglesey. It represents a real opportunity to make progress on delivering Wilver Newydd and creating the high-skilled, well-paid and secure jobs that we so desperately need here on the island. This £120 million fund will be available to firms looking to build small modular nuclear reactors, and I'm in regular discussions with Bechtel, and their ambition to invest in developing a reactor at Wilver Newydd is very real. This fund could help them to develop a compelling bid and bring the reality of a new reactor at Wilver considerably closer. And I was delighted to hear the Secretary of State for Wales, Simon Hart, say on Tuesday that there is now a better than reasonable chance that Wilver will get a new nuclear power plant. And I wish to assure you that my commitment to securing Wilver Newydd is stronger than ever. It leaves me to say, I hope you all have a really lovely weekend. Pen wythnos da I chi.